Evening, everyone. This is a special work session of the council and our leadership team, and I will now open the meeting for the special work session. It is now 6:45, and calling the meeting to order. This meeting is being conducted both in person and online, and the city clerk will note that Councilmember Keeley is absent. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or may join us online or watch us on burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or on Comcast channel 16 or 859. The public can also join and participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. And more information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. The item we have before us, we are in the midst of budgets. And so tonight we are hearing from our staff on the report on the capital improvement plan review. City Manager Lindberg, the floor is yours.
Excellent, Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. Just by way of reminder, we're kind of midway through our budget process. We started in February, and our last major milestone was our March 21st discussion of the updated financial management plan. Tonight really kicks off the summer of conversation around the budget. We're going to start with our capital improvement plans. Jenny's going to take us through a presentation of the performance of the plan. I won't steal too much of her thunder, but if you recall, there's a non-binding resolution the council adopted with last year's budget that reflected at the time the financial management plan projections for levy increases over the course of the next 4 years. We had projected a 7.63% year-over-year property tax levy for the 2024 budget. We're confident that we can meet that target, and tonight really is the beginning of the conversation of the details that have gone in to meeting or exceeding that mark for the community. I will say that a couple of milestones that are coming up are all available on our budget landing page. That's burnsvillemn.gov/budget. That's where you can find, the community can find all the materials that we're talking about today, a link to our transparency portal, which really opens up the entirety of our finances and allows the community to explore how we both take in and spend resources for their benefit. We will be back with you for strategic plan presentations on August 15th, followed by an August 22nd presentation and discussion of the general fund operating budget. Jenny's going to take us through levy-supported CIPs or levy-supported capital budgets tonight. There will be a few non-levy-supported funds that we will talk about through our August and September conversations, but tonight we'll focus on those capital budgets that are directly influenced by or receive revenue from the levy. So with that, I will turn it over to Jenny, who has a few slides for you, and certainly we're available for questions and comments along the way.
All right.
And welcome to our CFO, Deputy City Manager, Jenny Rohde.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. I'm happy to be here tonight to go through this presentation on the proposed 2024 through 2028 capital improvement plan. Just a quick recap. As Greg said, we are continuing our discussion from the financial management plan work session in March. And really the purpose of tonight is really to give the council information on our work on the proposed 2024 through 2028 CIP plan, as well as receive any feedback and guidance that the council has. The FMP planned for a 7.63% tax increase. We are confident that we're going to meet this target this year. As we've started putting the budget together, we have had some dynamic and unpredictable conditions, especially around inflation, that have really created some challenges for us during this budget time. But along with that, as I said, we're confident we're going to meet that 7.63% levy target. Some of the economic realities, average inflation over the last year was 8%. And while the average was 8%, in terms of our capital, some of our capital funds, especially in the equipment and vehicle fund, we've experienced much higher inflationary increases, especially in some of our larger equipment. And I'll talk about that on a later slide. In terms of some of the other pressures as we go through the rest of the budget presentations, we've got health insurance increases at 9% for 2024. We've had workers' comp increases, large increases over the past year, and we do expect increases to continue. Some additional legislative mandates, as well as some additional legislative funding through public safety aid and local government aid.
And with all of these increases, you're still confident we're going to hit that target?
We are confident, yep. We are.
Well, good work.
And it's been good work by everybody, I have to say. We've all really, even to this point, and I'll talk a little bit more about the new process for CIP and how that's been working. But last fall, the leadership team got together and talked about strategic priorities and the things that the actions and the most important things really to accomplish this year. And one of those things was an enhanced CIP process, really around that strategic priority of infrastructure. Really to better inform the capital and plans, we wanted to implement a new enhanced CIP process. That really involved an accelerated timeline. So all CIP requests were due by the end of May. We were asking for more information on the new things, on the things that departments were asking for. And then we held meetings with the city manager, just similar, parallel to the process we did for the operating budget last year, that we implemented that process this year with our CIP. Following those meetings with the city manager, we've had follow-up leadership team discussions to really fine-tune and really talk about the capital requests for the year. Some of the assumptions and other factors influencing some of the plans this year. These are, we've got new legislative funding. For our capital and enterprise funds, and those enterprise funds, as Greg said, will come in a different meeting, but we've looked at, fund balance requirements for those capital projects funds. And then all capital projects in the CIP are funded, that are included in the CIP plan will be funded through a plan. As we've gotten deeper into our planning for the CIP, we've taken a look at all of our capital requests, and we realize that we really need more information and data on some of our long and short-term capital plans. So as we've developed the CIP this year, we've also asked directors to go back and do some studies so that we can really have a complete inventory of what the city has, what condition it is, and what needs, when it needs to be replaced. So this slide just shows the different studies that we plan to do over the next year to really inform next year's CIP plan, so that we can have all the information we need to make sure it's comprehensive. Our plans are comprehensive, and we know what our needs are. So a pavement management plan, a complete parks plan, a municipal facilities inventory, a water treatment master plan, a fleet study, and information technology master plan. Next, I'll just go through some of the funds as we talked about. Okay. I'll start out with just the summary. This is really just a total over the next 5 years of the planned CIP with all the capital and enterprise funds included. There are a couple of years that are higher. That 2027 still has a placeholder in there for the Nicollet and 13 overpass. As we know, we received Corridors of Commerce, our notification on the Corridors of Commerce funding, and but we still do expect we will have some federal and grant state funding running through the city, but we will contribute that to that project. So I know how that's going to work is ongoing, so that placeholder is still included as that happened kind of in the process of putting this together. But if you look at the 5 years in total, that's about $215 million in capital investment. As Greg mentioned, tonight we're really going to focus on those levy-funded or supported funds. Infrastructure Trust Fund, Improvement Construction Fund, Streets Maintenance, Parks Funds, Equipment and Vehicle, and the IT Fund. Some of the three of the other funds with specific revenues or utility funds. The utility funds, we will come back to you when we come back with the rate study, and we'll review those funds. The facilities fund will come back when we have more discussion on the facilities projects at a later meeting.
So so there's clarity both for you and for the community on the utility rate funded funds. There's a lot of fund in a sentence.
Yeah.
So for water and sewer and stormwater, our plan is to bring that back to you in the September timeframe. So as we're talking about general fund and kind of final preliminary budget and levy plans. With the facilities fund, you'll recall, and actually on Jenny's previous slide in 2024, you saw that was that bar kind of spiked as well. There is the $26 million placeholder for municipal facility projects. We know that number is a bit outdated at this point in time. We obviously are wrapping up work on the pre-design of 3 municipal facilities projects. Our plan is to bring financing scenarios and the results of those pre-design studies back to you. I'm anticipating in October. I'll finalize that timeline with staff this week, and I hope to have an update out to you in my weekly update on that. The purpose of that discussion will be to talk about what projects, if any, you wish to do and how we might path financing for those projects. So the reality is more work to happen there and more discussion. What we do know is that would not impact the 2024 budget or plan just by way of timing. So if the council were to choose to do a project, we wouldn't be expending funds in 2024, just given timeline anyway. So we want to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and make sure the council has the information and data and the assessment that you'd asked from staff. So we're well underway and just wrapping that work up.
Okay. The first funds are parks funds. New in 2024, we have split the parks funds into a parks replacement fund and a parks investment fund. The parks replacement fund really is accounting for the resources and the expenditures for the major repairs and maintenance of the city's existing parks and trails. And the parks investment fund really accounts for the monies received from developers for parks development or used to acquire and develop new parks and trails. So really to clarify those two uses and really make it easier to assess where the needs are and what's available for future parks investment. We talked a little bit about this at the FMP, and so tonight you'll see those two split. First, the Parks Replacement Fund. As we mentioned on the earlier slide, we will be doing a parks plan, a complete parks study. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing over the next year and will inform next year's budget. In terms of major 2024 projects, we have $640,000 to replace play equipment at 4 parks this year, or next year. $250,000 programmed in for bituminous, trails and other bituminous replacement, as well as $120,000 for a parks master plan update. Some of the key assumptions or key takeaways, we did transfer park dedication balances to the new Parks Investment Fund, so we'll see that when we look at the activity. And there's annual 3% increases in the property tax levy through 2027, with 6% preliminarily programmed in for 2028. Additionally, $622,000 in host community fee revenues is budgeted for 2024. With that, here is a snapshot of what the Parks Replacement Fund looks like. You can see the fund balance does dip down in 2027. We know we do have challenges. I think something as we complete our parks complete parks inventory. That's going to change what this looks like next year, but I think it gives us a good picture of what the needs are or what we think the needs might be. And then we will fine tune that as we implement, as we incorporate the parks study information into this. The large green bar, that expenditure really is just that transfer out of parks dedication fees. As we move on to, I just want to make sure I didn't skip a slide. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, sorry. So, I did. The Parks Investment Fund, that also will be informed by the Parks Plan, and along with that Parks Plan, I know we've got a complete study and inventory of everything we have, and as well as additional community outreach will be part of that process. Major 2024 projects are at HOC Pleasant Connector Trail, as well as $150,000 for the HOC Gateway Trail. We also have programmed in some technology upgrades in our parks. That's an annual budgeted item in this area. A couple things to take away. No, we don't really have any large park dedication receipts expected after 2024. We've got a placeholder of about $100,000 incorporated annually, but at this time we don't. You know, those can change depending on developments, but right now we don't have anything large after 2024. There was about $4.9 million in parks dedication funds that were transferred in from the split of the funds.
Question,
Yep.
because we need the parks plan to help inform all of these expenditures, and I'm sure by the time we take a look and take an inventory of all 76
76.
parks throughout and what is needed. When is the deliverable?
Great question, Madam Mayor. So we've talked about this over the course of, I would say, the past 8 months. Staff's actively working on the parks plan at this point in time. What I can say to you tonight is that I have asked our staff across each of the 6 major studies to have that work completed by the end of February 2024. There are challenges in that timeline, but it's a priority that, to your specific question, an inventory and assessment of the current condition of the system will be completed to ensure that we can inform a more robust conversation through the 2025 budget process, so for next year's budget process. My thoughts on that work kind of remain the same that we've talked about over the course of the past really 8 months, which is, I think, the investment in time and a little bit of patience to inform what our community says that they want and need and the condition of our current system. I think that's just underscored the importance of us separating these funds. At the end of the day, $4.9 million is a lot of money in parks dedication funds that have been transferred into this new Parks Investment Fund. That's the good news.
That's going to go away.
The challenging news is $4.9 million isn't going to go very far in terms of addressing new or existing identified needs in our park system. And I think that next year's conversation is going to have to be kind of robust around what that means for us, what we do, what we don't do, what becomes your priority and what isn't. And this fund is probably the best example of why I think that the information and data and the assessment is so important to inform future capital discussions. Really, at the end of the day, to Jenny's earlier points, well beyond $200 million of investment over the course of 5 years is significant. It's certainly something that I don't take lightly. And my concern through our enhanced CIP process this year was I learned of a lot of information and a lot of questions that are still out there that I would like to have answers for before I can come back to you and in good faith make recommendations on how we should invest those funds. So that's been kind of the theme, I would say, of the enhanced capital improvement plan process this year is we really have recognized the need for these 6 studies. And the importance of having that information to answer those questions and assessing that data, I think, is critical in terms of making the right investments on behalf of our community, which is why I've asked staff to complete that work.
So deliverable February of 2025.
Correct, and my commitment to you, and you've seen this in some of my updates, and we'll talk more about this in work sessions between now and then, is we will provide fairly regular updates to you on those plans, and put in front of you kind of our path forward to get to that point of completion. So there's no surprises during that process for you or for the community, because there's a lot of work to do. Is what we've discovered, just plain and simple. We need to make an investment in staff time and making sure you have the right information and the community has the right information on how we're investing these resources. And I feel that's essential to our financial future.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, as we've made this more intentional process happen, I think we've realized the need for more information as we go forward in a number of areas. So, we don't right now have any large projects planned until we understand what's needed. Fund balance available really is about 4.2 million once we've got those couple trails that we've done. And as we look out to the future, if we have larger parks investment projects, we may need to identify additional funding sources to help accomplish those projects.
Yeah, because as I look at everything around the city now, I don't know if we're going to have any development that will have park dedication funds coming in.
Yep.
Because everything that's going to be in the center village, that's already paid their park dedication.
Mayor, you make a good point, Council. It's one of the things and one of the key assumptions I think is important in the Parks Investment Fund in particular, which right now is this fund is completely dependent on
the
park
levy.
dedication fees to provide right now what appears to be and is a robust fund balance. The challenge with that, from my perspective, is that robust fund balance really isn't going to go very far when we look at what the community has already told us that they're looking for in a park system, and what we anticipate to hear over the course of the community engagement that you asked us to do in December of 2022. So we're actively working on that, and again, while this fund looks healthy right now, I think our challenge is going to be that
Sustainable long-term.
that there is not, as Jenny said, we're projecting about $100,000 annually in parks dedication revenue into this fund moving forward. Frankly, that's just not a sustainable funding source, and we're going to have to deal with that reality.
Your graph
Yep.
tells the story.
It does tell the story because we've got a large cash balance, as you can see, but once projects are programmed in, that's going to get drawn down, and we really don't have revenue at this time to sustain.
Yeah,
you
your
know,
investment
any other-
line is way above what those funding sources are.
Right, and I think that, Mayor and Council, I think one of the other important points in terms of this fund is that while that might seem daunting to meet community needs, I think taking the time to invest in making the right decisions on how we use current funds available and how we make wise decisions to ensure the health of this fund and our park system well into the future. I really do believe that requires additional study, and that's what we're actively working on right now.
Okay, next, onto the Equipment and Vehicle Fund. The study here would be fleet study and really doing a little more fiscal analysis in terms of what our capital replacement needs are, and timing on that. Major 2024 projects, patrol squad vehicles, those replacements, an armored vehicle, an ambulance, and a truck for the streets department. Key assumptions in terms of revenues, we do have annual increases in property tax, the tax levy. We have programmed in the public safety aid and local government aid to this fund. That safety aid, there are many public safety eligible public safety uses for that aid. And also we do have annual host community fee revenue in this fund of about $600,000 programmed in.
So Mayor and Council, just to Jenny's
Yep.
point, so on an earlier slide, you saw that we anticipate, and we've discussed, that we expect $2.8 million in public safety aid in
Yep.
terms of legislative funding that's coming our direction. Oh, so go ahead, Mayor, sorry.
That's one-time money.
Correct.
Better
Yep.
not be, I hope it's not programmed into the general fund.
Which is the point that I wanted to make, Mayor.
Yep.
That staff's recommending that we invest that $2.8 million into the vehicle and equipment fund. This fund is the most challenged capital fund that we have. And we have some fairly major projects
Yep.
across police and fire. We plan to replace, or the previous CIP and the current CIP calls for the replacement of our mobile command unit, which was a 2000 purchase. Mayor, I know that you and others will recall that. That vehicle is beyond its useful life at this point in time. We believe that's about a $1.5-ish million project.
Today's money.
Initially, we had a $1.1 million placeholder in the CAP for it. We learned through our work this year that number had started to push $2 million. I had asked staff to go back and sharpen their pencils, and we've arrived at a $1.5 million placeholder at this point in time. We also know that we have significant investment in fire apparatus and the inflationary pressures that Jenny was mentioning are really critical in solving some of those problems.
Yep.
I jumped your slide, didn't I?
That's okay.
All right.
That's all right. No worries. So as we looked at current year requests, what we saw in this fund was the equipment and vehicle fund had a very large increase year over year in what the needs were. I believe it was about $3 million increase across the year over year of the 2024 through 2027 CIP if you compare last year to this year. So we really had to do a little more work before tonight's meeting and really talk about what were the needs. We did have about $1.5 million in capital reductions and reprioritization of projects, so we were able to take that number back a little bit. We also have $2.7 million in requests that are right now on a carry forward list. They're not funded in the equipment and vehicle fund. Those are items that we really needed more information on. We really needed to go back and get better information on what the needs were, what the priorities were. So we are keeping that list, and we wanted to inform the council and make sure the council knew what our needs were. But we also didn't feel comfortable putting them in the fund at this time without gathering further information. So that's part of the work that we'll do over the next year to inform next year's CIP. In terms of the items on that list, there weren't any 2024 items, so it doesn't have any impact on operations in terms of departments for 2024, but we do have some work to do in this area. As I said, we'll do some review and reassessment over the next year and some more financial analysis to really further support that fleet study. We were able to remove the debt for equipment in the current year plan. We had programmed in 2 equipment certificate bonds in 2025 and 2026. And with that public safety aid and the other changes, we have removed that. It just really enables the city to not have to pay additional interest on our equipment and really use saves that debt capacity for other things in the future. Here at the bottom is some, we talked about the inflationary pressures, especially on some of those large vehicles. The $600,000 increase in the 2025 mobile command vehicle, that was about a 66% increase over what we thought it was going to be. And the 2027 fire truck, we had pretty good information because we had just ordered a fire truck, and that we had budgeted that at about $1.1 million. We had a $300,000 increase in the price of that, so about 30%.
Question.
Yes.
So when we got the first mobile command center, because I remember working on this, we got it on grant. money. Do you know of any grants available in the federal budget that we can apply for? Or if not, I can do some digging. Because
Well,
this
Ma-
is,
Yeah.
this is
Madam
going
Mayor,
to be a
members
much more
Yeah.
expensive vehicle. I mean, you're just
Yep.
giving us today's dollars. When we get around to purchasing it, I don't know what that's going to be.
So, Mayor, council members, certainly we have left no stone unturned to identify grant funding. 2000 was a much different time
Yep,
than
yep,
we're in
yep,
today. Staff is not aware at this time of any applicable grant funding. It's frankly one of the reasons that I'm recommending to you that we take the $2.8 million of one-time state public safety funds and just over $400,000 of local government aid, which we're very grateful for this year, and use that to offset the imbalance of this particular capital fund and take care of some of those one-time investments.
Yeah.
It also saves us on some fairly significant interest that we would be paying in today's environment if we were
Yeah.
to issue equipment certificates, which the previous FMP
Yeah.
had called for us for these particular investments. Jenny, do you have any idea of how much interest over the course of those bonds that would save us?
I think if you're talking about a million, let's just, I think, 1.1, if you were talking about 1.1 million, which I think one of ours was programmed for that last year, is about $350,000 in interest. So that is a significant
Yeah.
additional cost.
So the benefit there is, we're pushing 0.75% of the overall property tax levy. That's significant savings over the course of time. Removing that equipment debt was a priority that we took pretty seriously as a leadership team. And really, it was the addition of some local government aid this year and the one-time public safety funding that would allow us to do that, and frankly make this fund solvent and alleviate the need to borrow money to ensure there was enough revenue in this fund to support the expenditures.
Okay.
Here's the fund. In terms of funding sources, it's pretty steady. We've got, like I said, we have tax levy host fees. We do have an annual assumption for local government aid in here. The fund balance does dip down, but as you can see, it does rebound back in 2028. And certainly, as we go through this year and as we plan for next year, we certainly know that, our focus will continue to be on making sure we have our needs met through this plan, and that we keep on looking and prioritizing and make sure to keep this fund solvent. The IT Capital Fund, we have a study here. It should say Information Technology Master Plan here on that study, and that we'll be taking a look at our IT infrastructure and making sure we've got a good plan for the future on that. Major 2024 projects. One of the biggest impacts in this fund right now, we do have an ERP system program for 2024. The cost for that has risen pretty significantly from last year. I think this number here, 2.3 million, was about 1.3 million last year. As we've begun to study this and really get into planning for this project, we do think that this is a more realistic number. I think this may change as we continue to look at what our needs are and as we get further into the project. But I do think this is this is a realistic, or at least a needed increase in this area. To reflect what an ERP system is going to cost us. We've got personal computers for $362,000 and firewall replacements for $144,000. Key assumption in this fund is receiving an annual, I think for 2024. We've followed the plan from last year. 2024 had a 20% year-over-year increase, and then this fund is also receiving 12% more the other years annually from property taxes. We do have, as part of the financing plan for the ERP system, there was $390,000 in one-time funding from the general fund to help fund that program, and that is included here. This fund does still have some challenges, and we're still working on that long-term plan. We've got some work to do yet on some carry-forward projects, and we think that through the budget process, this fund balance is gonna come in line, or it's gonna go up. But right now, with the projects that we have in there and that ERP system, right now we are showing a negative fund balance into 2024, really with that large increase in cost. And we think we can bring that, up before we're done with our work here on the budget.
Underwater.
It's just, there are just price increases, really, there are price increases coming, from everywhere this year we got with inflation. And we want to be really thoughtful about the community's resources, so we really want to do that work and take that time to look at, what are our needs and making sure we're prioritizing that.
That big spike in 2024 is, to Jenny's point, reflective of the investment in an ERP system. The ERP system is our finance, payroll, HR, kind of our enterprise system. Obviously, things like utility billing, revenue collection becomes critical in that. It's a significant project. We've seen increases in those costs. It's a reason to get the project done, frankly, on top of the reality that that we know that our current vendor will no longer be providing upgrades, which is an indication that they will no longer provide that particular resource. So it's a project that, because of cost, because of the reality of the vendor, that we need to undertake.
And just look at your ending fund balance line.
Oh, I do too.
Which is
It's underwater.
which is connected to that spike in 2024
It's
related to
underwater.
ERP and some of the other challenges. And I'm confident that through the process, Jenny and Tom were just talking this morning. I don't know even the substance of the technical details of those conversations, other than I'm confident that we can find a path to bring some of those pressures more in line.
Yep.
I think this is a good fund, just to use as an example, that we had planned for 20 and 12% year-over-year increases. That's a significant investment, and we want to make sure that we're making those investments wisely, and that we're also maintaining the targets that we had committed to in our previous FMP, and certainly in your non-binding resolution.
You all are doing a fine work. I'm just looking at the story that these graphs are telling.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep. Next fund, Infrastructure Trust Fund. The study for this area is going to be the pavement management plan. Major 2024 projects, of course, $4.8 million for street improvements. That's our normal, our annual street improvement project, either from reconstruction to rehab. We have $575,000 programmed in for county signal replacements. And we're also undergoing a study on Williams Drive, and what, the current plan includes the normal rehab reconstruction, and depending on what the results of that study are, if the project is going to increase significantly, there would need to be additional funding for that project. Key assumptions: we don't have any additional debt planned at this time. Last year, we included a $1 million property tax levy reduction as part of this plan, and then phased that levy increase back through 2027. So we have kept that pattern. Municipal state aid in this fund is we've projected it to be level through 2028. We've actually saw a slight decrease in the last year, so we want to make sure that we're being conservative and not. We don't expect necessarily that we're going to have large increases in MSA aid from the state. This plan is working. As I said, I think the one takeaway here is we are really right about where we need to be in fund balance at the end of this plan. But if we don't necessarily have a lot of additional funding to fund a large increase in projects for Williams Drive. So we'll have to look at additional funding sources depending on the outcome of the study there. So. Street maintenance fund. Again, the study informing this would be the pavement management plan. This fund is really maintaining the street infrastructure that we have, so really this tends to be more routine or more maintenance in nature. We've got $497,000 in preventative roadway maintenance programmed, $95,000 for pavement markings, and there is a monument sign that was planned for 2024 that's included here. That monument sign was programmed to be funded by one-time general fund transfers, so that is, when you look at the key assumptions, the transfers in of $576,000 from the general fund does include that.
Where is that monument plan going to go? Because we've already got the 13 east and west.
Yeah, I don't
And then-
know where this was planned to go. This was part of last year's CIP. I can find that out.
Yeah.
What the plan was for this. I know we have pushed these out a little
Yeah,
bit.
because I don't know whether we start 42 now, because we've done 13.
Mm-hmm.
No, are we doing 42?
We discussed that before COVID, and then we pushed it back
Yeah.
during COVID.
Yeah.
These have been pushed 3 or 4
But
years.
it's been pushed quite a bit, but I'm not quite sure where this one is going to be located.
I can't remember where it was.
We will take a look and get back
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
council.
we can take a look at that.
Jen, where is it going to be located?
Oh, yes.
It was to be located at the entrance points on 35W, 35E, and then
Oh,
35
from the
on
south.
Yeah.
That's right. That one is a very costly one because of where it's supposed to sit. And there was a lot of work that we needed to do with MnDOT because it sits on their right-of-way.
Yeah, so MnDOT opened up their right-of-way policy to allow these signs now, and so that's how all three of them got phased in over time.
Okay. Is that amount going to be the right amount?
I'm not that informed about the cost, I just knew the locations.
Well, but I know how expensive that location is, and that's why it was pushed so many times.
This for one sign is 180,000.
Yeah, on the south, on 35 coming from the south, coming north.
I'm just thinking, we used to talk about when it was 50,000 for a monument sign.
Yeah,
I don't-
yeah, I know.
have stomach for that. That's crazy.
Mayor and council.
That's a little steep.
Yeah, Mayor and council, I
Build
have.
a house for 180.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling about that level of investment, so let me do this. Let me get complete information from
Yeah.
staff on what that $180,000 placeholder is. Councilmember Workman, to your point, we've pushed these projects several years.
And they always go up. They don't come down.
I-
They just keep going up.
One of the phrases staff probably likes the least coming out of my mouth is the juice worth the squeeze, and I'm not sure on this particular investment that makes a whole lot of sense. And it certainly could reduce general fund
Yes.
pressure coming into this fund. So let me get back to you on the details of those projects, and frankly, it could be one that we could eliminate from the plan that would reduce some decent pressure on the general fund.
And there are, just kind of full disclosure, there was one planned for 2025 and another one for 2026, so.
Yeah, this one on 35W South has been the most difficult one and the most costly. And there were a lot of staff work that had to go in, working with MnDOT on giving us permission.
I don't think when we last discussed this, it was even close to 180,000. I think cumulatively between 3 or 4, we were at like 125.
Yeah.
This might be,
Something.
this might have been 2,
It's
and that's still 90,000 each.
for us.
And I'll also make the observation that I think I'm seeing 3 of you kind of question whether or not this is something we want to continue with. So the
you know,
the
I do
easier
want-
path
yeah.
might be
I
to simply
do
eliminate
want
it from the plan.
Burnsville to have an identity when people come into it, you know. And you go anywhere and you see welcome signs into any of the other cities. So I want to have an identity, but boy, let's find out what that cost truly is, you know, and what does this sign look like?
We will prepare a report in that case
Yeah.
and get it back to you for your information. I will probably provide that by way of a written report to you in an upcoming work session packet as we work through the budget process, and then we can discuss it again at one of our upcoming budget meetings.
Because I remember when the sign on 13 coming in from Egan was put up, and how many people commented on how beautiful it is, and it was nice to see that, oh yeah, you're coming into Burnsville.
Got to be shopping.
And we're proud of our identity.
Yeah, until they got to Riverview Center.
Yeah. Changed in a block.
We're working.
Well,
Yeah.
We're working on that one.
Yeah.
but
Coming from
anyway,
the south, we got a pretty nice water tower there with our logo on it too.
anyway. Proceed.
Okay. The remainder of the regular operating fund is, regular operations of this fund is accomplished through transfers from the general fund and the two utility funds. And those tend to be, about the same with some small inflationary factor, I think about 3% increase in those transfers each year. So as you look at this fund, it's pretty stable.
Yeah,
We budget about,
your ending fund balance looks good.
yep, we're staying pretty level. We did build some fund balance in 2022, but as you can see, we try to program for the maintenance, or the annual maintenance is about what we're taking in from the other funds.
Question?
Oh, excuse me?
Street maintenance, does that include snowplow?
No, it really is more like seal coating and those
Yeah.
kinds of things,
Yeah. This is
maintaining,
capital.
kind of maintaining
It seemed
the.
kind of low when I started thinking about it.
Yeah, yep, no, snow plowing and those things are in the
Yeah.
general fund, but this is
It's
really
not
just
services.
taking care of the
Yeah.
road surfaces,
Thank you.
I guess, is how I would think of it. Improvement construction fund, this is kind of, the corresponding or other fund, kind of next, as you think about, the infrastructure trust fund. The improvement construction fund also has, major street projects in, but really it accounts for the grant funded portion and the assessed portion. So when we get grants, federal grants for street projects, that activity runs through this fund. So it really is more of a zero balance fund. What's expended is funded through other sources, whether that be assessments, bonded assessments, or grant funding. So there's no property tax levy per se in this fund. We do annually have a host community grant project that's usually funds projects in this area. Oops, I missed. I don't know why this is giving me trouble tonight. So really, you can see revenues equal expenditures. That 2027 is, again, that Nicollet and 13 placeholder. That's why that number is so high. That probably will change and evolve as that project develops. So we just, at this time, we didn't have a better plan. We know things are changing, but that is what that 2027 number is. And next steps really this is really kind of the first budget meeting of the summer, or budget intensive meeting of the summer. We are also doing our work on the operations budget and have meetings all this week and next week with the city manager. And we will come back August 22nd to discuss the proposed 2023 budget and tax levy, and we'll review the operating funds at that time. And then following that, September 12th, we're planning to come back with rate study and utility fund information, and adopt a proposed city and EDA property tax levy on September 19th. And that concludes the presentation for tonight.
Okay.
I will stand for any other questions. Otherwise, that's what I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great work. I asked my questions as we went along. Anybody have any leftover questions?
I don't think so.
Anything? Okay. And you have some information to bring back to us?
Absolutely. So we
Yeah.
will certainly respond to the questions that came up tonight. I would point back to Jenny's previous slide. The September 12th meeting has been indicated as a if-needed meeting. To Jenny's point, we do believe we need that meeting with you to talk about utility, the results of the utility rate study and moving towards then a preliminary budget and tax levy. So
Yeah.
that will be our
Because-
plan through the next 2 months.
And then on the 19th, we adopt the property tax levy and budget.
Correct.
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, it's because of the hard work of our team that we had a good plan last year, and the plan is working. We really are looking for effectiveness throughout the budget. How are we effectively using resources? How are we efficiently using resources? And it's because of the team and their willingness to make sure that we're delivering value to the community and to our taxpayers that we're able to continue to make that plan work. So certainly around the table, I very much appreciate the women and men who are giving of their time and their talent and their resources to help us make our budgets work. So
Well, to you and our team, thank you very much, because this is truly just looking at everything and all of the increases. You're doing some yeoman's work to hold it to the non-binding resolution that we adopted. So to even get to that point, and we still have McAndrews, and we don't have all of the numbers for McAndrews, right?
Williams?
the Williams Drive
Williams
project.
Drive,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's right.
Williams Drive.
And certainly just a reminder on that project, we came to the council a few weeks ago and said, or a
Yeah.
few months ago, and said, hey, do you want to take a look at studying maybe a different option? We've made no commitments. We've made no commitments to the community about adding additional resources. We're simply studying what options are out there and plan to bring that information back to you, and we'll discuss if that's something that you might want to look for additional investment in or not.
Yeah. Jen, at Party on the Plaza, you're going to be there, and for Williams Drive as well as the 35W,
In the heart
all
of
the work
city
that we're doing on
parking, I'll be at-
35W right now,
I'll be
correct?
at 3 places.
Yeah. I'll come and help after I'm done with one side, and then I'll come for the 35W.
Yeah, so Regina's gonna be at 35W, and we have Heart of the City Parking Study and Williams Drive, three.
And you'll be at Williams Drive, the
Be at
Williams
all of
Drive.
them.
Huh?
I'll be at all of them. Hopping around.
Hopping from one tent to the next. Yeah, and I'll be there to help out. Okay. Anything else? If not,
We will
yes,
keep working.
Before you adjourn,
yeah.
I went to international festivals last weekend. They did a great job. What a wonderful crowd, just,
Was it
it was a lot of fun.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
thank
very
you.
well attended.
Oh,
Thank-
my God, it was like a huge crowd there.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Yeah, it was packed. Yeah, thank you. And Jeff, oh my God, he was there yeoman from the beginning to the end, taking care of things. Thank you. And Chief, no incidents, and they were right there, up on Ames Center, making sure everybody was okay, and everything worked well, even fire and paramedics. We had one incident, a woman sort of fainted or had a medical emergency, and fire was there, and everything just kept moving. They came in, did their work, put her in the ambulance, but didn't even blip everything. And Greg, to Jay and his staff, they were behind those cameras from 3 to 9:30 because
absolutely were.
people wouldn't let the band stop at 9. They played till 9:30.
if you want to experience hard work, be a camera operator in the sun for that length of time. So yes, we have probably, well, in upwards of 20 staff who really were invested and involved, helping the event committee out. It's one of our important legacy events. I think that I was saying to Jeff earlier, I think it's one of the events that just is distinctly Burnsville. It's uniquely Burnsville. It celebrates the differences that make a difference in our community. And certainly it was fun to see staff there and invested. And that's what our values are all about, valuing people and perspective and collaborating and connecting with the community.
And what a wonderful experience of seeing our international community.
Absolutely.
Jeff got introduced to our Eastern Bloc immigrants. They were right there. Anka was right there with you.
You know, Pana Prague is that same weekend, and they have amateur wrestling, so I mean, you might wanna,
I think
You
we'll
could
pass.
consider it for the festival as well, Vince.
Yeah.
they're popular in the Mexican culture. The
Well,
masks
you
and
know,
everything.
we're focused on dancing and music and food and art.
Choreographed.
Something to think about.
Okay. Well, but thank you for mentioning that. It was.
So much fun.
It was really great, and staff did a wonderful job. Everybody was there. Everybody pitched in to help the International Festival Committee have a successful event, and it was.
And I
So-
need the name of that corn company.
Oh, you
Oh, it was
did?
delicious.
Was
I
it?
need to get it, because I want to talk to him.
Okay. Krish will have the name of that.
Who will?
Krish.
Chris?
Yeah, he did all of the food. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all of your great work. We stand adjourned by acclamation. Thank you.